Mission Impossible turned a 60s spy show into a Tom Cruise blockbuster machine, launching an era-defining franchise with a shocking mole hunt that stunned fans of the original. Here's what happened to that team. Ethan Hunt's iconic wire drop scene was performed entirely by Tom Cruise himself, who struggled to balance in the harness until someone had the idea to put coins in his shoes to redistribute his weight. This was also the first film Cruise ever produced, and he specifically hired Brian De Palma to give it a distinct visual identity, separate from the original TV series. Married 3 times to Mimi Rogers, Nicole Kidman, and Katie Holmes, he's been famously estranged from his daughter Suri for over a decade, a rift tied to his high-ranking position in Scientology that's followed him for decades. Diagnosed with dyslexia at age 7, he struggled reading scripts early in his career. Now 64, Cruise headlined the closing ceremony of the 2026 FIFA World Cup in New Jersey and has been linked to socialite Elsina Kairova, with rumors swirling around a reunion with Shakira. Max the arms dealer gave Vanessa Redgrave something rare for an actress of her stature, a chance to soften a public image battered by decades of political backlash after her outspoken support for the PLO in the 70s led to her being burned in effigy and blacklisted by parts of Hollywood. Her infamous 1978 Oscar speech, attacking what she called Zionist hoodlums, remains one of the most controversial moments in Academy Awards history. Off-screen, she endured the devastating loss of her daughter Natasha Richardson in a 2009 skiing accident. She reunited with actor Franco Nero decades after their original romance, marrying him in 2006. Now 89, Redgrave remains one of the only performers to complete acting's full Triple Crown, and she's celebrated in 2026 as a living national treasure of British culture. Jim Phelps' shocking betrayal in the film's twist was so controversial that original TV star Peter Graves refused to reprise the role at all, finding the idea of the hero turning traitor unacceptable, which is what opened the door for Jon Voight to step in, drawn specifically to the tragedy of playing a fallen hero. Voight has undergone one of Hollywood's more dramatic political transformations, moving from a counterculture icon in the 60s to a vocal Trump supporter today. That shift has strained his relationship with daughter Angelina Jolie, and in 2024 he publicly called her ignorant over her stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict. As of May 2026, he's reportedly pleading to see her again before she leaves Los Angeles. Now 87, he was appointed Special Ambassador to Hollywood in 2025 and continues leading a national initiative to bring film production back to the United States. Sarah Davies was written specifically as a decoy lead, a famous face killed off early to establish the film's stakes, a technique borrowed straight from Psycho, and Kristen Scott Thomas's brief but memorable role became defined by one of the film's most quoted lines. Off-screen, she endured childhood tragedy on 2 separate occasions, losing both her father and stepfather, each a Royal Navy pilot, in eerily similar plane crashes years apart. She built the rest of her career largely in France, calling herself more French than English, after moving to Paris at 19. In late 2024, she secretly married Bloomberg editor John Micklethwaite, describing finding love in her 60s as wonderful. Now 66, she's currently promoting her directorial debut, My Mother's Wedding, and has been confirmed to return for Season 7 of Slow Horses. Franz Krieger's helicopter dive into the Channel Tunnel became a genuine ordeal for John Reno, who spent days trapped in a hot, claustrophobic mock-up gimbal, joking that Tom Cruise was trying to kill him. Reno turned down playing Agent Smith in The Matrix around this same era, preferring to stay in France and film Godzilla instead. Married 3 times, he now has 6 children across those marriages, and his current wife Zofia Baruka's wedding to him was such a major French event that Nicolas Sarkozy served as his best man. He's lived with type 2 diabetes for nearly 2 decades and remains a quiet health advocate in France. Now 77, Reno published a spy thriller novel in April 2026 about the abduction of Ukrainian children, calling the subject matter madness that shocked him personally. Hannah Williams was originally written with a much larger subplot involving a romance with Luther, but Ingeborga Dapkuni's storyline was trimmed for pacing. Though De Palma kept her prominent in the finale, because he felt her innocent face made the tension of the NOC list download land harder. She'd already won the Russian equivalent of the Oscar before this role, and for decades she remained a celebrated star in Russia. That changed after 2022, when she left the country following the invasion of Ukraine, severing ties with the Russian film industry that had made her an icon and describing the decision as tearing her heart out. She gave birth to her son at age 54, keeping the pregnancy almost entirely private. Now 63, she's currently starring in a stage production about 3 generations of Lithuanian women at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Luther Stickle has appeared in every single Mission Impossible film since this one, making Ving Rhames the only actor besides Cruise with that distinction. When Rhames won a Golden Globe for a different role in 1998, he stunned the industry by calling Jack Lemmon up on stage and handing him the award while weeping, a moment of humility still remembered decades later. He's been married to Deborah Reed since 2000, one of Hollywood's quieter, more enduring marriages, and the two share 2 children. In 2016, police held Rhames at gunpoint in his own home after a neighbor's racially charged report, an incident he's spoken about candidly since. Now 67, he collapsed from dehydration and exhaustion at a Los Angeles restaurant in April 2026, but was released the same day, and he currently hosts the History Channel series History's Deadliest. The drunken female IMF agent who creates chaos in the film's opening prog sequence was cast because Brian De Palma was struck by her ability to switch instantly from disorderly drunk to steely operative, a range he'd noticed in her earlier Russian dramas. Valentina Yakunina had been a respected stage actress in the USSR before relocating to the UK, where she was often typecast as an Eastern European spy despite her classical Moscow training. Her most enduring legacy, though, might be her daughter. She's the mother of acclaimed British singer-songwriter Shura, known for the hit Touch, who has credited her mother's Russian heritage as a direct influence on her music. Yakunina largely stepped away from high-profile acting after the 90s, and her marriage to English filmmaker Richard Denton ended while their children were still toddlers. Now 69, she lives privately in London, occasionally appearing in home video footage on her daughter's social media. Kittredge's exploding restaurant scene required 16 tons of water crashing inches from Henry Czerny's face, and he said his shocked reaction on camera required 0 acting at all. He deliberately built the character not as a villain, but as a frustrated father figure trying to discipline a rebellious son in Ethan Hunt, giving Kittredge a uniquely condescending edge that stuck with audiences for decades. That choice paid off far beyond the original film, since Czerny went on to reprise the role nearly 30 years later in Dead Reckoning and The Final Reckoning, a resurgence colleagues have jokingly called his Czernaissance. Married to casting director Claudine Cassidy since 2001, he's kept an unusually private, scandal-free life in Los Angeles with their son. An avid carpenter and semi-professional photographer in his downtime, Czerny is now 67 and currently filming the bilingual drama series Bon Cop, Bad Cop that is set to debut on Crave later this year. William Donlow's vault scene, sitting motionless for hours while Cruise dangled above him, became the most famous sequence in the entire franchise. And Rolf Saxon has joked that his only job was to be the most boring man alive, so audiences would focus entirely on the tension above him. What most fans never realized is that Saxon is genuinely famous in an entirely different world, having voiced the narrator for the American version of Teletubbies and starred as the lead in the beloved Broken Sword video game series for nearly 30 years. When Christopher McQuarrie personally called him to return for The Final Reckoning in 2025, Saxon initially thought it was a prank and hung up. Now 71 and divorced, he's a dual American-British citizen who built a long career in UK television during quieter stretches between roles. His on-screen redemption arc, revealing Donlow married an Inuit woman in the Arctic, delighted longtime fans of the original scene. The drunken male IMF agent, stumbling through Prague's opening sequence, was played with total commitment by Marek Vashut, who trained at the Lee Strasberg Institute and stayed in character between takes even for this small role, wandering the set as his drunk persona to maintain the physicality. Vachout has spent decades as Hollywood's go-to Eastern European villain in films like Blade 2 and Van Helsing, while also lending his voice to the protagonist of the legendary Czech video game Mafia. A lifelong bachelor, he said he never felt the need to validate love with paperwork, devoting himself instead to his two beloved chihuahuas, whom he calls machines for love. He's been remarkably open about his years-long battle with depression, becoming a rare male voice in the Czech Republic, working to destigmatize mental health treatment. Now 66, he recently voiced a major character in Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2, and holds a recurring role on Slow Horses. Max's silent, menacing companion during the train sequence was played by an actor whose entire career has been built on that exact archetype, and Andreas Wisniewski has embraced the joke that his role here feels like a reincarnation of his character in Die Hard, even attending conventions as the henchman of the 90s. What audiences rarely guess is that Wisniewski was a professional ballet dancer before acting, and that graceful physicality is precisely why directors kept casting him in fight-heavy roles for decades. He's also a dedicated Zen Buddhism practitioner who spent significant time in monasteries, a striking contrast to the violence of his on-screen career. He keeps his romantic life entirely private. Now 67, he released an extensive interview this July reflecting on the franchise's 30th anniversary, and he's currently shopping a passion project screenplay exploring the intersection of meditation and creativity. Claire Phelps was written as one of the film's most emotionally complex figures, seemingly the innocent surviving wife who's slowly revealed as a co-conspirator. And Emmanuelle Béart has said she ultimately walked away from the Hollywood blockbuster machine entirely after this role, choosing to rebuild her legacy in French theater and independent cinema instead. In 2023, she co-directed a documentary revealing she had survived incest between the ages of 10 and 14, a disclosure that shook France and made her a leading voice in the country's #MeTooIncest movement. She's also spent over 20 years as a UNICEF ambassador, married 3 times. She's currently with documentary filmmaker Frédéric Chaudier, and the two appeared radiant together at the Cabourg Film Festival this past June. Now 62, Béart went viral in May 2026 for a striking Balmain gown at Cannes, proving her lasting reputation as one of France's defining style icons. From a hooded car ride to a wire drop above the vault, which Mission Impossible moment started it all for you? Subscribe for more.